Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why the Cowboys need to move on from Dez Bryant and why I'm actually starting to believe in the OK3. Speak for yourself starts now. I do look this good. Don't try this at home. It's illegal in most states to look this good. Do not try this. You got to be a full-grown adult. Hello and welcome. Cowherd's out again, so I'm joined today by longtime NBA veteran Jim Jackson, Fox NFL analyst Tony Gonzalez, and Fox Sports Radio host Doug Gottlieb. Let's start in Pittsburgh, where the Steelers are still dealing with the fallout of the Patriots signing James Harrison. After Harrison spent the last couple of days celebrating his new team on social media, the Steelers fired back and didn't mince words about their former teammate.
He erased himself. He erased his own legacy here. Let's be serious. There's something that he wanted to do, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like, oh, they got together and said, we're going to go cut James. Like, no, that's not what happened. And he needs to come out and admit that.
I don't want the media to portray that we the reason he left or the Steelers are the reason he left. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that ain't the reason. We're making sure you speak it fast. Like, he chose to leave. He chose to do what he wanted to do. He made his turn decision, and his actions showed, and it got him to that circumstance.
Harrison addressed wanting out of Pittsburgh yesterday, saying, quote, "After the first week of the season, I said to them, it's clear you want to play your younger guys, and I understand. So why don't you release me? If I didn't play in the biggest game of the year, that told me I wouldn't get any more snaps, so all that lip service you gave me before didn't matter." All right, Jim, you flipped me. I went from being totally against James Harrison to now, after everything's been said, I think the Steelers look worse. And I think the Steelers look worse than James Harrison in this fallout because these guys are telling stories about him sleeping and snoring in meetings. Why didn't you cut him then? Why would you wait until the end of the season if he acted this kind of a fool, made it this clear all year round that he wanted out? Why wait until the end of the season, until the most controversial time that you could release him, and then he goes to the Patriots? And look, listen, I thought James Harrison was disloyal and going to the Patriots and all this stuff, but when I look and try to balance who looks worse, to me it's the Steelers for holding on to him for as long as they did.
It's kind of tough for me because the Steelers, I think in the short term, it's James Harrison because of the Steelers, because of, as you know, Tony, the reputation of doing things the right way and how they treat their players and former players. Because in the short term, it's like the player is not happy. He's malcontent in the locker room. No matter what he says, it's always against the team. But I think in the long term, it's only the Pittsburgh fans that's going to really remember this kind of stuff because he's going to be going off somewhere else. Now, we got another month and a half. If they play him in the AFC Championship, it's all going to be brought up. But my question to you is, have you been in a locker room like this where a player doesn't want to be there and these things are going on and then something happens and everybody piles on top of them after that? Like, this kind of tells the story of the locker room.
Well, here's my experience has been this. I've asked for a trade in the middle of the season and did not get granted that trade, even though the whole team knew. I had to go there and I said, Coach, Herman Edwards at the time, please let me talk to my teammates by myself. And here's why I wanted out. And I had to explain it to them. And I got nailed in the national media for it, saying this is why they're not that good. They weren't a winning team, though. Pittsburgh was a winning team, and I think people are probably having a hard time with that. Why would you want to go? But James Harrison, to me, he looks better for this. If I were him, I would have wanted out of there, too. If you're not playing me and you're not going to trade me, then I'm not a mascot. I know I have the legendary, aura of being around this team, being around these young guys, but I don't want that for my last year in the league. He's ready to go. This will be his last year. I don't think he's going to play again. Don't waste my time out here parading me around like there's James Harrison for the team. Let me go to some place where I can actually have an impact and end my career on a high note. Absolutely, Pittsburgh Steelers look the worst on this.
Problem is he can't have an impact. He doesn't have anything left. Doesn't have anything left in the tank. They would have played him if he could play. They're not just going to keep a guy. And the only reason they kept him was because he was a Steeler. They wanted him to go out as a Steeler. So many times we do these one-day contracts when a guy leaves. They did right by him, and he did wrong by them. I disagree with you guys. You're not a pro. You're falling asleep in meetings, not showing up. You're not helping, nurture the young guys into being better players. You should absolutely you should be a good steward.
You don't care about that.
Why not?
At all. Because,
why not?
Okay, in your conversations with the team, when you asked for trade, were there things they told you that they were going to do for you and didn't do?
No, it was a different situation. I was still having an impact as a
He
player.
was in the middle of his career. They just can't say the Chiefs suck. They didn't win a playoff game for 20 years.
It was year 12. It was year 12.
It was year 12,
You
right?
still had plenty of gas in the tank.
But here's my thing: is that I don't like the semantics in regards to the falling asleep and stuff, because that's doing it on purpose.
But he disrespected the game.
I don't like that. They should have got rid of him. He told him he wanted to leave. They should have got rid of him. They should have cut the ties and let him go and move on.
But they don't want to embarrass. You don't want to embarrass him by cutting him mid-season and nobody picks him up. The only reason the Pats.
A team is not worried about being embarrassed about cutting somebody.
But no, not when you're the all-time sack leader and you signed him on and he went through training camp at 38 years old, you're like, look, let's just get through the year. We got him. He can play if we need him. Just you be a good dude. Let's not rough him. He wants to work out and post videos, fine. And it just got to the point where like, enough, goodbye, go. And they didn't know he'd go sign with the Patriots.
But hold on, Doug. He wasn't being a good dude. He was, again, his teammates are now coming out and basically saying, he wasn't really with us.
I don't understand. So how is that making him look better? I don't.
No. Because if I'm the Steelers, I don't wait until this point in the season.
I think they just got to the point where it's just like enough. They've had enough distractions. Like he made it to where they had to cut him.
Let me say this real quick, please,
yes.
because the best thing that I ever did was finally have the motsy and the sack to say, I got to get out of here. I got to go ask for a trade. Because otherwise, guess what? They would have never have let me go out of Kansas City. They were saying, no, why do you want to go? We're going to get you this. We're going to get you that. I'm like, I got to go. And it was the best decision I ever made. Has nothing to do with the fans. The fans cannot take it personal. But team-wise, I went to Atlanta, and lo and behold, a couple years later, I'm in an NFC Championship game. The Kansas City Chiefs at that time were still doing nothing. I would have stayed there if I would have, quote-unquote, played ball, been the tutor to the young guys. It would have been the worst thing for me. I'm so glad that I finally spoke up and did what most people like you, like the people watching, would say you're just not being a good guy. You're being disloyal.
I actually think you're taking it completely the wrong way. One, I agree with you then, I agree with you now. All you ever care about in sports, or at least all I ever cared about, was what the guys in the locker room thought of me, right? Mm-hmm. Like, who cares what the coaches think? Don't really care. And the fans, you don't really care either because they don't actually know. And when the guys that you were playing with all kill you, all crush you, that speaks to the guy. Because that's all that really matters. But it's the same thing with this place. Like, do you really care what anybody thinks? No, but I care. I know, I care what you guys think, but you don't care what anybody else thinks. In sports, you care what the guy. And when the guys in the locker room see the all-time sacks leader and they start clowning him the day he walks out the door, I can't see how James Harrison looks good.
And I know you got to go into that subject, but real quick,
I
don't think James Harrison cares. I've seen him in the Hard Knocks. He's not like me. He's not like you. He doesn't have a care, could care less on what his teammates think of him or what anybody thinks of him. I think that's he's got a big chip on his shoulder. He came into a league a certain way, got cut a bunch of times. He's out for himself, and he wants to end it on his side of favor.
Let's deal with the reality. Mm-hmm. It's happened. Do we honestly think it's going to have any impact if they meet in the championship game? I actually think...
On the field?
Yeah,
no.
on the field. I actually think it's going to give Pittsburgh an emotional edge.
I think galvanizes them. I mean, look, this is a Pittsburgh team that has more talent than the New England Patriots. They do. It's inexplicable. I know they have a good record, but if you've watched Pittsburgh all year, like they struggle with the Colts, they struggle with the Browns, like they struggle with a lot of play down and up to the level of competition. Mm-hmm. There's been something missing. And then you have the disconnect between Ben and Todd Haley, which has never really fit. You have the disconnect between Ben and Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's like, look, he's a big-time quarterback. He can change the play at the line of scrimmage. So you've had all these, you've had the Antonio Brown thing and the contract, which seemed to kind of ruffle everybody's feathers. I kind of think this galvanized them. Like, look, this dude wasn't all in it for us. We don't have Ryan Shazier. That galvanized. Look, I don't know if they have the talent or it's a bad matchup to beat the New England Patriots. They don't seem to be able to cover Rob Gronkowski. It's in New England. They never lose at home. They never lose to the Steelers. But I do think this is the first time all year to which they're all pulling in the same direction, and it's the opposite direction of James Harrison.
I think, and that's all well and good, the thing that kills me about my Steelers, and I'm going to say my Steelers, is that the undisciplined nature when it comes down the stretch. When I watched New England on that last drive, no penalties, nothing. I mean, straight down. With Pittsburgh, I just fall into the trap that something is going to happen. We're going to hurt ourselves. It was 1st and 10. We get a holding penalty. Then they move us back 10 yards. Then it's the play caller. It's like we implode and beat ourselves against a more disciplined New England team. Can we be, the question to me is, can we be as disciplined, even if this galvanizes
I
us?
would agree, Jim. I would agree. The only thing I think you're underestimating, and Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but football is a game of precision, but it's equally, if not more so, a game of emotion. There's a place you have to be able to go mentally just to be crazy enough to step out on that field and compete in an NFL game. It is a violent game played by some of the most supreme athletes the planet has ever produced. And again, to get there mentally and to be able to stay at that level for 3 hours is tough. And I think that this actually could backfire on Bill Belichick in New England in terms of giving Pittsburgh that emotional edge. Again, it's like when people disrespected the Patriots team years ago and they came out, but we're all a team, and they beat the Rams.
The first ever Super Bowl that they won. They introduced as a team.
There was an emotional edge that New England had that, to me, helped them beat the Rams. I think the same thing could be in play here.
Well, you know how I feel about, I don't know if you know how I feel about motivation. I'm not big on motivation. I'm big on routine. I know the routine that the Patriots have is big time. It's the best in all the business. I don't care what sport you're talking about. So, yeah, it might be good for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 plays, but after that, New England Patriots take over. I think they win in a rematch.
You know what else helps? It helps when you have better players. Antonio Brown is better than anybody who's going to be covering him, right?
If he's playing.
If he's playing. And I think it'd be Le'Veon Bell is the best running back, maybe the best player on that football field. They have T.J. Watt. They have dudes on defense. They have better personnel. And yes, the Patriots found a way to beat them.
The biggest point here.
Huh?
You missed the bigger point.
What's that?
It's the reason why Gronkowski has all those Super Bowls and Tony didn't get any Super Bowls. Gronkowski plays with emotion. Tony didn't. All right, welcome back to the show. Jim Jackson, Tony Gonzalez, and Doug Gottlieb are back. Let's move to Dallas, where the Cowboys have had a very disappointing year, perhaps nobody more so than Dez Bryant, whose production this season is the lowest level of his career when healthy. Jerry Jones wouldn't comment this week on Dez's future in Dallas, but the receiver made it clear that he doesn't plan on taking a pay cut to stay with the team.
I feel like for the most part, I can only do what I can control. Yeah, in bitter times, hell yeah, frustrating. Certain situations, that I couldn't control. But other than that, I believe who I am. I'm a hell of a football player. I know that. I believe that.
They come to you for a pay cut. Are you cool with that?
Whenever I haven't heard no talks about that. But if it come, well, I don't know. Probably not. Hell nah, man. I believe in me.
He thought about it. He
thought
about it.
Wait, what?
He needs to do a little more thinking about it because the production just doesn't justify $12.5 million next year. They're going to have to cut bait with Dez because, again, I think all great athletes have a delusion. All great people have a delusion. And Dez Bryant still thinks he's 24 years old and in the prime of his career. He's 30. He's clearly lost a step, and he doesn't hold on to the football. They got to cut bait with him and get Dak Prescott better targets.
I agree with you from this perspective. Delusion, yes, because when we get older, we still think we can do the same thing. The $25 million that the Cowboys owe him the next 2 years, are you going to pay him because of what he's done in the past? I don't think so. Will you ask him to take a pay cut and play a lesser role, i.e., like you mentioned, Larry Fitzgerald or Anquan Bolden?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lesser role. But right there, I think it told you what he's thinking. He was like, no. No, in my mind, I can still play, which is a tough thing. But the Cowboys have to make a business decision. I mean, short-term and long-term. I mean, with the money, they'll take a cap hit if they waive him and cut him. But you got to ask him if he wants to take a pay cut. If not, you got to cut him.
Listen, I really want your opinion because it's obviously way more valuable than ours, having played the position at such an incredible high level. I will tell you this about Dez Bryant. He's never been the greatest route runner. He's never had the best hands. He's never had the highest vertical jump. But the thing that has separated him throughout different parts of his life, and especially his football careers, he is an incredible competitor. Like, he rises his level depending on who he's going against in the game and situation. I remember back when he was at Oklahoma State, they were like, look, Monday through Friday, he's a pain in the ass. He's like, but Saturday, ain't no one you'd rather throw to than 88. And he has to understand, somebody has to pull him aside and explain to him where he is in his career, and then he's going to have to make the adjustment. But you can also hear in that response that the competitive fire still burns within. And I know that your body lets you down and your mind keeps telling you, but I wouldn't bet against him, Dez Bryant 2.0, whether it's in Dallas or otherwise, adjusting, because you still, when you, third down, you need somebody to go up and make a play, you throw it up to 88, he still will make plays if he's put in position to do so. And he has a quarterback who believes him. I don't think Dak believes in him. I think there's a rift there. I think Tony Romo calling the game and pointing out they didn't throw
ago
that.
when he was talking about your opinion was more important.
My bad.
He's used to his own show. It's a one-man show, man. I get it. The thing you have to ask yourself, the question is, whether or not they should cut ties with him is, can he still play? Is he putting up numbers? And you've already answered that. No, the numbers aren't there. It hasn't been there. 22, 23 games in a row, not over 100 yards. It doesn't matter. I don't care who's throwing you the ball. If you're an elite guy, you should be able to at least get 100 yards every once in a while. And so now you have to ask the question, if you did ask him for a pay cut, is he going to be okay with that? What we know of Dez Bryant, do you think he's going to be okay with that? Anquan Bolden, you talked about him. Anquan Bolden's a man of the year. Now, I'm not saying anything about Dez Bryant's character. I don't know him as a person, but I don't think he's been nominated for man of the year. Is he going to be a guy who could be in the locker room tutoring young guys, being that team guy, saying, okay, I'll catch 30, 40, 50 balls. I'll play my role. I don't think so. I think absolutely, look at, if I was the Cowboys, he's got to go. He's got to go, and I got to bring in somebody who's a better target for the future of that franchise.
One hope for Dez Bryant, and I say this in all seriousness. He needs to go to Germany and visit Kobe's doctors, whatever, and get that rejuvenation or whatever they do over in Germany for the old athletes. That's what he needs to do, but he's going to have to do it in a different uniform. So I kind of agree with you, Doug. He could have a 2.0 in another uniform after, but it'll last a year or two.
But wouldn't he take a pay cut if he goes to another uniform anyway? I mean, in that conversation
taking
that
a pay cut in the Dallas locker room is different than taking one in the Carolina Panthers locker room.
You never take a pay cut and stay on the same team.
All right, welcome back to the show. Jim Jackson, Tony Gonzalez are back. We're joined now by the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Tampa Bay, where Jameis Winston addressed the media today and was actually asked about my suggestion that he is jealous of Cam Newton's status as the best black quarterback in the NFL. Here's his response.
Am I jealous? Am I jealous of Cam?
What the true things are, yeah.
I wish we had his record, but I admire Cam. I look up to Cam, and me being an Alabama kid, like I say it all the time, he played quarterback at Auburn. Cam know he the man. It's not my place to be jealous of him. My place, I want to beat Cam every time I play against him. Absolutely, but nah, I'm not jealous of Cam. I love my life.
He loves his life.
Loves being 4-11 and Cam being 11-4. Look, man, he wishes he had his record. That answered the question. He didn't need to say any more than that. I think Jameis gave the proper answer because, again, someone asked, are you jealous of him? You expect him to say, oh, yeah, I am jealous of him. Of course he's not. He's not going to say that. But again, I think to some degree, and I'm glad the guys down in Tampa asked the question, I'm not mad at anybody, but I've been taken out of context. I love Jameis Winston. I love the competitive jealousy, envy, whatever. I think if people were being real, jealousy, we put a negative connotation on jealousy, but it's not always negative. And in sports and in competition, it's certainly not always negative. I love Jameis's mentality. I think people think his stock is low, and his stock is low. But I'm buying all the Jameis Winston stock I can because I loved his reaction after this game. It's not the proper reaction. It's immature, but it was a window into just how passionate he is. And I do think it's personal between him and Jameis, not in a negative way, but there is a competitive jealousy that is driving Jameis.
I think you got to be careful with the word jealous because it can lead to more of an impact, because when you walk down the road of jealousy, it could lead to some kind of impactful harm to somebody. Something could happen. I like the word envious because I'm sure he's envious of the situation where Cam Newton is at. Great looking guy, of course. But he's won, he's been to the Super Bowl, he's getting all these endorsements. That's somewhere that he wants to be. I was envious of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. They winning championships, and I would sit back and watch it. Why couldn't it be me? Not that I was jealous or wanted to take anything away. No, I was envious. I was very envious, and I wanted to take it. But that, to me, I think we got to be careful with the word jealous. I understand where he's at as a quarterback, but jealous, I'm going to say envious.
He's always kept it real, right, Jameis Winston, whether it's talking at Florida State or to elementary school kids and maybe stepping out of pocket and saying something. But I'm going to take him at his word and say Jameis Winston is not jealous. But I will say this. He is a 23-year-old quarterback. We forget that. Dak Prescott, older than Jameis Winston. Okay? Dak Prescott's only been in the league 2 years. And it just feels like at 23, you know, maybe you do some things you regret on the field, going after a referee, the eat a W thing. I think he's just got to do a little growing up, and maybe you're right, there is some envy there. I think jealous is a little harsh, Whitlock. Just a little bit.
I'm with you, though. I don't know if it was jealousy, envy, or whatever it was. I know that when I played against someone like Shannon Sharp, I went against Antonio Gates, Jimmy Graham, it happened my whole Jason Witten. It did not matter. I was there to show that I'm the better tight end. And so when we play against each other, that's what's on my mind, too. Of course, I want to win the game, but I want to put up stats. And after a game, if they outperformed me, I was mad. And I was mad, and I wanted to do well.
He's making my point.
But that's not jealousy.
Yeah.
That's not jealousy.
That's not jealousy. It's just I wanted to show.
Jealousy is a whole different topic.
He's under a lot of pressure from guys like us when he feels this too. When you play that game, you know for sure, especially as a quarterback, forget about tight ends, who cares? But the quarterbacks, you know after the game, you're going to be talking about who outplayed who. Yes, which team won, and then who played better. Was it Cam Newton or was it Jameis Winston? And there's a little pressure there, and he got frustrated, and that's why he lost his mind. But at the same time, once he gets that in check, that's when his career will really take off.
Let me defend the word jealousy and why I keep saying jealousy, and I really don't mean it in a negative way. But that reaction after the game, that was bizarre. That was like, holy cow. I mean, Jameis Winston's lost games before. There's been controversial referee calls. And Jameis Winston's done some weird things. But this was bizarre. He went to the sideline, came back onto the field. And so then you have to start wondering, why? What? And again, it had to be something personal. He has a healthy competition in his mind with Cam Newton. He just said, I wish I had his record. And he knows for a fact, he goes, man, if I had Cam's defense, my God, what would I do? He is, again, everybody thinks jealousy is this really horrible negative word, but it's not. Guys in these leagues, guys in TV, guys in radio, they said, oh, man, Colin, I wish I was making Colin's mouth. I wish I had his radio show. There is a little jealousy there, and it drives certain people.
What if he's jealous of Cam Newton's hands? Maybe if he had Cam's hands, he wouldn't have fumbled 10 times this year. I mean,
Really?
he lost that game for him, Whitlock. He straight up lost that game.
I chalk it up to immaturity still. I think Jameis Winston is still immature. If you look at some of the fluctuations, when you're mature in the league, you don't fluctuate emotionally as much. When you're still immature, still trying to figure it out, you're losing, the pressure is on you. He hasn't matured to that point where we want to see him, to me.
Accurate. But Jameis' situation is unique. He's been trying to escape the allegations that hung over his head at Florida State, the mistakes he's made. And so I'm telling you, this dude came into this season like, this is going to be the year. Oh, my God, I'm going to silence all my credit. And then he gets to the end of December and is like, we're sitting here at 4-10, and I just threw away a chance to beat Cam Newton and the Panthers, and he went off the deep end. I support you and like you, Jameis. I'm all in on you next year. You're going to be great. All right, welcome back to the show. Jim Jackson, Doug Gottlieb, and Jason McIntyre are back. Let's move to Sacramento, where the Cavs got spanked by the lowly Kings last night. LeBron didn't have a great shooting night, and even though he finished with a triple-double, he actually started the night with some more complaining about the officiating from Monday's loss to Golden State.
For me, the worst thing is when I actually go and talk to the ref and they say it was nothing. Like I go over, you didn't see that? No, I didn't think it was anything. It's no call. It's no foul. Like that's the worst for me. If he says, you know what, I may have missed that one, or you know, maybe I wasn't in the right position. But when you see the ref right there on the baseline looking at the whole play, and you go up to him and you say there's no call multiple times in the crunch time, that's the frustrating part. And for me, it's even more frustrating because I know how I'm officiated at times.
Let me translate what LeBron just said. When someone disagrees with me, it's very frustrating. Everybody should agree with me. I can play and referee at the same time. Look, I love LeBron James, but sometimes he falls into this little victims mentality. And as I like to say, victims can't be champions. And LeBron had, again, some of these cliches that they tell you in life and sports, there's so much truth in them. You got to control what you can control. And he can't control the officials, nor should he. And so it doesn't surprise me that they've lost 3 of the last 4 games. Doesn't surprise me they go up to Sacramento because the leader of the Cleveland Cavaliers is wallowing in, oh my God, I didn't get a touch foul against Golden State. It's the wrong mentality. LeBron lapses into this from time to time. A victim can't be a champion.
Well, he's not the only superstar to complain about not getting fouls. Okay, but on the other end of that, he gets opportunities afforded to him because he's LeBron James. And we tend to forget about that. I remember when I was playing, I was bigger than guards, okay? So I would get called offensive, sometimes fouls, because I was bigger and stronger. I'm like, listen, bro, don't take it from me because he's small. But then I would get benefit of the doubt at times too. So it kind of balanced itself out. And I think what you can't do, Doug, if you played this, you understand, you can't forget about the opportunities that you get. Because you're going to get benefit of that a lot more times than maybe not getting a call.
He's really hard to officiate, right? Especially the way, right? His situation is incredibly similar to Shaq. Shaq got brutalized, absolutely brutalized. Yep. And it's hard. You can't call foul every possession because then it's a hard watch. But I'll say this.
Throw one thing in before you go further.
Yes.
Was what Kevin Durant did to him going down the lane, was he brutalized at all?
No, absolutely not.
No comparison to what Shaq dealt with.
I just mean that we have this from the time that you're little. When you're when you're the biggest guy in the court or the biggest guy at your position, sometimes you get the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes they're like, well, you're big, you can't complain about that, which is exactly what Kevin Durant said. Like, he's too big, he can't get away with it. I actually think this is a really good thing. You know who leads the league in free throw attempts per game? It's James Harden, right? James Harden gets star calls all regular season. But you know what he doesn't get in the postseason? He doesn't get those same star calls. So he gets preconditioned to expecting to get those calls that he doesn't get. And then they get into the postseason, all of a sudden, they're like, no, keep playing. Whereas this is how LeBron is officiating in the regular season. This is how he'll be. It's tough to officiate him in the postseason when he's creating contact because he always plays downhill. He always leans on his defender. So I actually think this helps condition him, whether he knows it or likes it or doesn't like it, for the future.
Interesting. As an outsider, never played in the league or college basketball, I see this differently, guys. LeBron's been in the league 15 years. Hasn't really complained about officials much. 15 years. Oh, listen, a couple occasional calls late in games, but he has not been a chronic guy like getting ejected this year, this ticky-tack stuff on Christmas Day. For me, this is about the Warriors. He has now lost 6 of 7 games to the Golden State Warriors. They were without Steph Curry. No Curry on Christmas Day. I can beat these guys. Can't even take him down Christmas Day. So what does he do? He deflects and starts complaining about the officials. The Warriors own me. I think it's in his head at this point. I don't have Kyrie to bail me out. Man, I'm going to take it out on somebody, and it's the officials. This is the year he is deflecting his anger about the Warriors to the officials.
Well, I think he's sending a message, too. It's like coaches who lose a game and maybe don't get the fouls called for them. They're preparing for the next game. They're preparing for the next series. With LeBron James, he's strategical enough to understand in his mind that if he talks enough about it, they'll change the way it looks. Now, will it matriculate right now? We don't know. But going to the playoffs, here's the thing about the playoffs, too. If they're going to call it one way, they got away with being more physical. Think about this, when they beat Golden State. And I say that because off the ball, it was Steph and Clay. J.R. Smith and Shumpert were way more physical.
Roughing
they weren't
them up.
getting
That's the only way to beat Golden State. Oklahoma City did that when they beat.
It's about the Warriors.
I think, though, you guys are reacting. This is about that 2-minute report. That's what it is, right? The 2-minute report said he got fouled 3 times. And he's like, I told the ref, you missed it. And see, I told you, you didn't want to listen to me. I missed it. I think this is the 2-minute report he's reacting to.
I think you guys are just, he can be a condescending, entitled. You know what I don't like? I don't like it when they tell me they disagree with me. Yeah. I'm LeBron James. That's what the man just said. And Jim, to your point about trying to set things up, the grown men and women who officiate the NBA, they're watching this video too. And their reaction is like mine. They heard those words and heard that attitude, standing there like this. You know what I don't like? I go and tell them they missed a call, and they tell me I'm wrong. How dare they? Don't they know I'm King James and I'm the only reason why the NBA is important? That The officials will remember that and take note. They're not going to be bullied.
Jason,
if you look,
And he
look,
was
wait,
shirtless,
hold
too.
on.
He was
Look at the
shirtless when he made that
NFL. Look at the NFL and the NBA. There's a problem with players and officiating and respect for authority.
true.
That's true.
And they're starting to the referees are pushing back. All of this revolution against authority, it shows up everywhere.
Hold on.
And that's why there are so many issues between players and officials.
How many fingers am I holding up?
4?
I just want to make sure you said LeBron doesn't complain about
He's
it.
not his stuff.
Dude, the club that he's like, oh man, is it bleeding?
Russell Westbrook had a huge game, dropping 30 points, 13 assists, and 8 boards en route to a blowout win over Toronto. After a slow start, OKC has now won 6 straight, including beating the Red Hot Rockets on Christmas. After the game, Melo gave it up for the reigning MVP.
I think the fact that that Russ is just playing, not trying to defer to anybody, to any one of us, just playing his game and letting us play off of him. I think he's much more effective by doing that rather than deferring to, myself or Paul. And, we know what he brings to the game. We understand it. We accept it, and by that, he's able to just play his game and relax and do what he do best. And we need that. We need that Russ out there, not the one who deferred to us.
Love the hat by Melo. Great look. I actually like what he's saying here. I would have said it a bit different. I think Melo allowing Russ to do what Russ does and Melo backing off a little bit and being more of a complimentary player has turned this team around. And I'm starting to think that they are possibly a legitimate threat in the West. I got to totally backpedal. 2 weeks ago, I was ready to fire Billy Donovan. I was ready to bench Carmelo, and I was ready to trade Paul George away. I look foolish. So I've got a new threat level assessment in terms of what kind of threat the Thunder are. And so from Big Bird to Carlton to Drake to Debo to Suge Knight, I'm putting them at threat level orange Debo. Right now, yeah. Not quite Suge Knight, but Debo. They are.
Debo did get knocked out at the end of the movie,
that, right? Okay, but threat to do what? Okay, so threat to beat them in the Western Conference Finals to go to the championship. That's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's my threat level. Threat level assessment.
My threat is that they can take it to 6 or 7 games, not beat them. Not beat them. I don't think they're disciplined enough to beat Golden State in a 7-game series. I believe
that's a real threat. If they can take it to 6
I'm
or
talking about,
7,
defensively, they've been efficient on the defensive end of the court, okay, despite their offensive woes early on. Are they better than Houston in some aspects? They are. I don't trust Mike D'Antoni down the stretch in a series, putting in the right kind of defensive game plan. But to me, it makes it so intriguing if we can get OKC playing at their best, Houston playing at their best, because now we have something, we're going to have some tangible excitement going into the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, can Golden State win it? Yeah, but can OKC? And I'll say this about Melo. A lot of this is a byproduct of how he handled things in New York. I thought he matured so much in New York that now he's looking at the tables a little bit differently. I'm older. I understand where Russ is at. I think his outlook is different.
I actually think I don't agree with you with how he handled himself in New York. I don't think he handled himself particularly well.
I thought he did.
But I think the trip to New York was when this thing changed. Remember, they welcomed him back with open arms, and then they beat him. Then the New York Knicks, even without their second best player, beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was on that road trip that you start to see some buy-in to like, hey, my way might not work. I thought at the start of the year, and I started to jump ship a couple weeks ago as well, but I thought at the start of the year, this was the type of thing that would happen. It's very similar to the Thunder team of 2 years ago, when Durant and Westbrook were up 3-1. That team was wildly up and down during the regular season, but they got it together at the end of the season. They beat the Spurs in the playoffs and then should have beaten the Golden State Warriors up 3-1, could not close the deal. They have that type of talent. You have 3-star caliber players.
4, Steven Adams.
You can't forget Adams.
Steven Adams is a star role player.
Right.
He's absolutely star role player. Now, I don't know, in truth, in an NBA playoff game, they're gonna have Steven Adams is gonna be guarding, Steph Curry at the end of shot clock, and that's a bad mismatch, right? That's the true center. As much as he helps you on defense and rebounding, hurts you in trying to guard three-point shooters. So I do think ultimately, and the lack of bench hinders them. But look, when you have 3-star players, In this day and age in the NBA, you should be this good. And I would agree with you. Melo sacrificing his ego, playing catch and shoot, trying to be a better defender, trying to play on Russell Westbrook's team, and them all kind of figuring it out. I'm kind of buying that at the end of the season they'll be decent.
I'm shocked, Jim. 6 or 7? Are you kidding me? This is a Warriors team last year that didn't lose a game in the Western Conference playoffs.
Not last year.
Steamrolled everybody. Hold
Not
up.
last year.
All they did this week, the Thunder, was beat a Rockets team that everybody's beaten. Lakers just beat them. Clippers just beat them. And they knocked off the Raptors, who were on a back-to-back and lost to Dallas, your Mavericks, the night before. So let's calm down on OKC. I know they're playing well. And Russell Westbrook, listen to this panel. He stopped jacking three-pointers. Russell Westbrook, 30. Wait, Doug, hold on.
How they
30%
How they do?
Wait.
Wait.
So he stops jacking threes, and now he's attempting only 2 a game, which is smart. And he's settled down, and he's starting to pass more, and they hit a good patch in the schedule. Let's not go overboard. If they can take the Wolves to 6 or 7 in the first round or second round, then maybe we'll talk. But the Warriors, are you kidding?
How did they do?
Jim, are you
Did he see the game at home?
Gotta be quick.
How did they do against the Warriors at home?
They beat them. They beat them.
They demolished them.
Wait.
Whoa,
You just picked the 2 best teams in the West they have beaten. Arguably the 2nd best team
Lakers
in the
and
East they
Clippers
just beat.
the Rockets.
I understand. Like we're not freaking out.
It's
but if
December.
but they've beaten the good teams.